Sloan.
Hey, Shepi. Yeah, listen, I'm just trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to check something technical on my side. I've been doing these calls to some of my friends, and I've been using two phones. I'm on the camera, but the other people's on voice. That would be somebody else, you know. So I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call Mr. Foley in about an hour to get a sort of report from what's happening in the rural areas of DaBrother, because he has some very interesting to say. So I just wanted to try to talk to you and find out how the quality is or whatever have you. So if we can just riff for a second. Where are you physically anyway?
Oh, no, I'm in Makhanda. I'm in Makhanda. I'm not in Cape Town. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Now, okay, for Makhanda, for people who don't know, it had several names. How has it changed throughout the years since you've been there? Tell us that.
No, it's changed from Grahamstown to Makhanda. It's before, I suppose, before colonization, it was known as Irhini.
Well, hold on a second. Shepi. Before colonization, it was called by the autochthonous people, by the people who lived there. It was called what?
Irhini.
You just spell it. Just spell it. Oh man, you're breaking up. This is not good.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find another spot here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and now is it getting better?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were saying before colonization, Makhanda, who used to be Grahamstown, was named what?
Irhini.
Let's spell it.
It was named Irhini.
Let's spell it.
I-R-H-I-N-I.
Irhini. Okay. All right. What, does it mean anything? Is it a closer name? What language is it from?
It's a Xhosa. It's a lot of it's a Xhosa draws from maybe a good 40 to 60% of the language draws from the Khoi languages, because the Khoi and Amaxhosa, live side by side and they intermarried and so on. So it could, because it sounds like it has the origins in the Khoi language. A part of the explanation is that Irhini is a place of reeds. So there may have been reeds here, along the river before that.
Well, like reeds along the river. Yeah. So the Khoi is like those are the original people, like with the little arrows that run around and hunt people for days, or rather hunt animals for days. Is that the same people, or that's the Shan?
No, that's the San. The Khoi were cattle herders. They were not hunter-gatherers. The hunter-gatherers were the San. What in the Xhosa language are called abatwa. That's the San. Yeah, they were, and you'd find even their language right across, even in Rwanda. There is a Twa community. In the genocide, it was one community that was overlooked because they were a small minority, but they've been affected, and they're called Twa as well. It's the same basically the same noun as here in Southern Africa. Yeah.
Okay, so then colonialism came, and who settled that area? Why is it called Grahamstown? Why was it called Grahamstown?
No, it was the British settlers, 1820 settlers. They arrived here in 1820. Was a marker, a serious kind of encroachment of large batches of British settlers. And I understand they got recruited because they were promised, prospects of huge chunks of land. And it would be interesting to look at the advertisement for, to attract them from back in England those days. But anyway, they came in droves, and then they, as soon as they arrived, this place was the headquarters of the Amanjambe, and there was amongst Amaxhosa, a group called Amanjambe. Then King Njambe is said to have been buried where the cathedral is, where they built the Anglican cathedral.
Okay.
That under that cathedral is actually his grave. That's one story in terms of oral accounts of the indigenous people.
So the Anglican, what you said, the Anglican, what is like the Anglican Church? What the
Yeah, the cathedral, the tallest building in town.
Oh, okay. Oh, the cathedral. Yes. Okay. So hold a second. So there is a tradition, at least among the Catholics, the Anglicans. I consider Anglicans offshoot of the Catholics, that they would find a holy space and they would build their churches or the cathedrals over that particular holy space. Is that the case here?
Yeah. It's highly likely. Mm-hmm. And also, like, it's a marker of subjugation, because if we build where your king is buried, we basically not only desecrate that holy space, but also consolidate our domination, of you.
So if anybody even wanted to worship the king after the king is gone, or to respect the king, they have to go through the cathedral or go to the cathedral site to do it.
Basically, to impose their own religion and their own institutions. Yeah.
Okay. Then what happened? So then what happened next?
Then there were wars that were fought. The last battles, a series of battles. I think there were 9 of those wars, and between the settlers and indigenous people. And the last one was in 1820, because now we are finishing. That was the last one that subjugated, because that all the way from 1700s, but the last one was in 1820. Then with the arrival of this huge contingent of the British settlers, then there was a colonel of from the British side. He was a youngster apparently when he joined the colonial arm of 19, but ruthless. Colonel Graham.
Okay, I'm sorry. So he held the rank of colonel, and his name was Graham, Colonel Graham.
Yeah, Colonel Graham. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he led a lot of, and the British adopted the Scotch earth policy. So what they do, they would back the fields, or because the fields, it was just before harvest time when people were ready to harvest. They would ban the fields completely, and then destroy the livestock. They killed men and women, and children. They didn't discriminate. Whereas indigenous people had a moral code in terms of conducting the war, where the women and the children were spared. In fact, so much so that there's a woman who successfully carried a dynamite on her back as if it was a child, and crossed the lines to go and supply the British who were held hostage, who were like surrounded basically. And she saved the British colonial army through crossing the lines and exploiting this moral kind of code amongst the indigenous people of saying, look, we do not touch women, we do not touch children, we want to kill soldiers, men.
Okay,
she crossed over the lines and she went to deliver.
So this woman, she was autochthonous. She was an indigenous woman of that area that the British had do this, or how did this happen?
No. She was a woman.
She was a woman. Oh, she was a settler.
Yeah.
She was British.
But what had happened is that she was British, is that then the British soldiers had been surrounded and they ran out of ammunition, and so they were held up in that area. They couldn't get out of it because and in no time, indigenous people would have known that they'd run out of ammunition and overpowered it, because they'd surrounded them. They had no way out. And then the British army then sent this woman, and she carried as if she's carrying a baby on her back or something. She carried the magazine, whatever reinforcement that they needed, and using the fact that she would not be harmed as she walked over to the fort where the British were, and then supplied them, and then that's how they managed to reinforce their supplies and get out and fight their way out.
Well, it's interesting because isn't that the shades of like the Algerian Revolution? Isn't that what the Algerians did to the French?
Yeah. No, certainly, yeah.
It's like a reverse.
No, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue with the story. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I did mean to interrupt you, but I mean, continue, please.
Okay. Sloan, let me just tell them, because they're waiting for me for dinner. I'll just tell them I'll be another few minutes. Yeah. Guys, just go ahead. Yeah, I'll join you just now. Sorry.
Oh, I forget the time. I forget the time difference. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So then, what happened is so that battle somehow changed. It was interesting because those battles, especially those last couple of battles, there was a spy that the indigenous people had, who was smart because the settlers also had auxiliary forces amongst the refugees called Amamfengu, and in English they corrupt it to Fingos. So the Amamfengu, they were like basically refugees who had come amongst Amaxhosa and the Khoi, coming from further north, and they'd been accepted and incorporated in the community. So they use the difference, the fact that you are different, you're newly arrived, and what they used and exploited that, and then got them as their allies. They had some allies amongst the Khoi. Then one of those allies crossed the lines, and he was a spy basically for the resistors. And he went over and he briefed them, and then he conspired with them and came to the British to tell them that they're going to attack at a certain point. In the meantime, he was waylaying them. And so when they attacked, they attacked from a different flank. And that war, they were successful. They nearly overran the British. But then the reprisals after that were reinforcements from the Cape, because the administration was based in Cape Town, the headquarters. So they reinforced, and then they brought even more soldiers from England. And eventually they overran the Amaxhosa. And then that's where they use, Scotch F policy. They destroy everything, the fields, children, livestock. And in no time, the community was like struggling because it was like basically subdued through hunger. And then they decided that's when their leader, who was after whom this town is named, now Makhanda, decided to offer himself because he realized that everybody's been punished and is starving. And so he offered himself like a true leader. He volunteered, said, look, I'm offering myself, you imprison me, but reprieve the people of this slaughter that you're carrying out. And then they took him in. And that was
Makhanda. And that was Makhanda, who the town is now named after.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We can almost wrap it up. I don't want you to starve here. I want you to wrap it. Just so Makhanda, is he the one that was at Robben Island?
Yeah. The one that he was part of the escape group and he drowned whilst escaping, That's the one, So what happened is that when he was in now, his councillors, a group of them gathered together, and they felt that no, we cannot leave our leader. He was a man of medicine, highly respected, a revolutionary and everything. So they went over to the British to hand themselves over so that he can be released. And he can go, come to the community. And then there's an encounter, beautiful encounter, which is captured by one of the colonial chaplains or so of the settlers, of them making the case in front of the British and arguing that the war that the British had visited upon them is an unjust war. It was a war, to basically steal their land. And they argue there. It's like a powerful statement, man. So the men captured it verbatim, and it was translated then because it had to be translated then. and so yeah.
Mm. But
Yeah.
how?
I can. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I could take the story on if you gave me, let's say, about another hour. I don't know, and,
No.
I would still be available.
No. I'm sorry. I just want.
Yeah.
This was like a test. You know what I mean? I do want to talk to you at another time. And now you got to eat, and I'm not gonna stop. I can't stop an African from eating. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the Eastern Cape.
No, definitely. Yeah. Exactly.
No.
Given this history that I've just described.
So Shepi, this was just a test. I might put it up. I might not. Let me just say this. So now the town, they just recently, the last couple of years, they renamed the town for that king for Makhanda, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
So now instead of Grahamstown's name, that now did they rename Rhodes University?
No, not yet. Yeah.
I guess that's next.
Yeah.
Okay, well listen, Shepi, you get to eating. Thank you very much for this time. Now I'll give you a fair warning next time. This was just a test. I didn't want to talk this much to you. We'll do it another time. Okay. Thank you so very much. Enjoy your meal. Well, wait a second. What are you eating? Hey, I want to know what you're eating. What are you eating?
I have no idea. I think Comrade Robbie had cooked some meal, hectic meal, yeah.
Oh.
I think it's chicken and stuff, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Enjoy. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you another time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.